Chapter 34, Something's going to happen tonight. The disdainful security guard got two of his teeth knocked out as his entire head swayed to the side from the slap. Then, Su Cheng grabbed onto the guard's collar, and with a rotation of his body, he threw the guy towards three others behind him. The guard felt like he had been grabbed by an elephant trunk and thrown away, brutally and mercilessly. The other three security guards couldn't dodge in time, so they had no choice but to reach out and try to catch their buddy. However, just when they came into contact with their buddy, they discovered in shock just how much momentum the body was packing. All three of them were sent flying upon impact like bowling pins, each one of them rolling a few times on the floor after landing. Then, Su Cheng turned his body to send a whirlwind kick towards another guard's head, immediately knocking that guard unconscious and falling to the ground. Two security guards came over and tried to attack Su Cheng with their electric batons, but he just took a step back and dodged the attack. Immediately after, he grabbed onto the two guys' wrists and pulled forward. Tripping over Su Cheng's feet, both of them lost their balance and were carried forward with the momentum they initially had when they charged over. Su Cheng threw them directly onto the floor, and their faces slid against the ground for at least 2 meters until they stopped. Their faces were covered in blood and the sounds of their noses breaking were heard clearly. Just before those two crashed onto the ground, Su Cheng grabbed both of their electric batons. Now that he had two weapons, he immediately stabbed towards the throat of two nearby security guards, immediately blocking their respiratory tracts. Unable to breathe, the two guards groaned, and then Su Cheng flicked both batons upward. The power generated by his wrist was so terrifying, the movement directly hit their chins and sent them a few centimeters off the ground. Then, with a kick at each of their stomach, Su Cheng sent the two flying towards the nearest gaming table. The scene immediately caused a stir, and the fight happened too fast that when they were finally able to react, 15 or 16 guards had already went down. Master Qin's face was both stern and in shock as he looked at Su Cheng. After Su Cheng knocked a baton out from a guard's hand, he directly elbowed the guy's neck and knocked him unconscious. Then, without even turning around, he stabbed the baton towards the crotch of someone that was trying to sneak up on him. That guard immediately covered his lower body as he fell to the ground, his body shivering. When the three guards protecting Master Qin by his side charged over, Su Cheng threw the two batons in his hands and hit two of them in their heads, knocking them down. With just one guy left, Su Cheng casually kicked him in the chest and then walked over his body, grabbing onto Master Qin's collar and sending a punch right over. "This punch is for disrespecting me. If you dare to casually throw my ID around again, I won't be so nice next time." Su Cheng squatted down and said in a low voice to Master Qin, who had been knocked down to the floor from that punch, "Remember, my name is Su Cheng. I'm an officer on the bottom level. If you dare to humiliate me again, I will return the favor." After that, Su Cheng stood up and looked around, noticing that the gamblers were looking at him in horror. Su Cheng didn't want to ruin this place's business, so he just took out his ID again and said, "Don't worry, I'm a police officer. Someone broke the law here so I just taught them a lesson. You guys can continue on playing." Then, he left, with Yang Kongxia quickly following behind, and the surrounding people immediately opened up a path for them. The crowd immediately burst into discussions. "This guy's pretty arrogant, he actually came in, beat up old Master Qin from West Gate, and directly took someone away. Yeah, is this guy out of his mind? I'm afraid that he's the only person who has dared to provoke the Westgate gang all these years. What's this guy's background? He's the first one to break Westgate's rules all these years. I predict that he's going to probably disappear from Shangcheng." The casino manager immediately went to help Master Qin up, whose mouth was still dripping blood. Then, the latter looked at Su Cheng and said in a deep voice, "Little brat, I will make you regret what you did today." Su Cheng stopped in his steps. The manager got scared shitless, terrified that he was going to come back and continue the beating, so he immediately gestured for more people to stand in front of Master Qin for protection. Su Cheng asked Yang Kongxia, "How much usury did you borrow?" Yang Kongxia lowered his head in guilt. 100,000. Then, Su Cheng took out a card and threw it towards the manager. "There is 500,000 in there, I will come back later to get the rest of the money." Then, he took Yang Kongxia and left. The gamblers at the scene were all shocked to their cores and began discussing right after Su Cheng left. It was the first time someone had come over to Westgate's casino to cause a scene and then leave. One must say, a lot of middle-level business owners got to know Su Cheng tonight, but they also realized that the days ahead of Su Cheng were not going to be so beautiful anymore. "You shouldn't have offended Master Qin," Yang Kongxia said. "In Shangcheng, he can be said to be within the top 100 most influential people. His background isn't something you can compare." When the taxi driver heard Su Cheng and the other guy discussing Master Qin, he glanced at the two from the rear-view mirror. "What's the use of bringing this up now? I already beat him up. I'm a soldier, and that's my temper. If someone's going to get into my face, then he should beat me up until I yield, or I will beat him up until he yields." The taxi driver sneered, You beat Master Qin up? Is the Master Qin you are talking the Master Qin from Westgate?" Yang Kongxia and Su Cheng both looked at the driver but didn't say anything. After Su Cheng and Yang Kongxia got off the car and went into the hospital, the taxi driver counted the money and said in disdain, "Young people these days, they don't even do a draft before they boast. How can they joke about hitting Master Qin? Are they not scared of getting entangled with the people of Westgate? Who's Master Qin? He's someone you can't even get in touch with, and you are boasting about beating him up. It's good enough if you aren't crushed by the Westgate." Just at this moment, his phone rang. It was a photo sent over by his colleagues. The driver texted back, "What's with the photo? Boss has spoken, anyone that sees this guy should report his location right away." "What the fuck?" He immediately took a look at the photo and exclaimed, "Holy fuck, isn't that the young brat just now?" The driver gulped down his saliva. When Yang Kongxia entered the ward, his wife's surgery had already ended smoothly but she just didn't wake up yet. His daughter had fallen asleep by the window. Su Cheng stood by the wall in the corridor and smoked, and Shen Yao came around a corner and asked, "I talked to that little girl. You don't know their family at all. Is it worth the money?" Su Cheng looked at the warm scene of the family of three in the ward, and he faintly smiled. "It's worth it. I know how beautiful it is to have a complete home. If the parents are around, then the family can eventually make it through difficult times." Not long after, Yang Kongxia came out knowing about the operation and the fees. His eyes were all red, and he immediately kneeled before Su Cheng. "Mr. Su, thank you." Su Cheng patted his shoulder. "Go and accompany your wife. I'm not the one you should kneel before, it should be your family." Yang Kongxia nodded. The life he originally thought would completely collapse finally showed a glimmer of hope. When he walked into the ward, Su Cheng smiled bitterly. "In the past, I was quite desperate to one day be in a complete family." Shen Yao looked at the side of his face and asked curiously, "Where are your parents?" "Both dead." Shen Yao faintly sighed. "Sorry to hear that."